So the plenary session is on, so before we start, I want to allow us 2 minutes to please fill out the feedback form. Two minutes to fill the feedback form. Thank you very much. So plenary session 3 is on building economic blocks by advancing regional integration through competition advocacy. We would like to appreciate the team that's coming to discuss this, with the moderator being Ms. Amin Hakobian, Deputy Director of the Department of Competition and Public Policy at the Eurasian Economic Commission. The panelists are Ms. Alexia Waweru, Principal Legal Officer, COMESA Competition Commission, Ms. Elvia Villarreal, General Director of Competition Advocacy, COFESE, Dr. Martina, Director International Cooperation. She's joining in online. Then Mr. Stephen Cooper, United States Trade Commission. Amin, you may take it away.
It's okay. Good morning, everyone. Dear distinguished participants, let me welcome you to our session devoted to the role of... Does it work? Let me welcome you to our session devoted on the role of competition advocacy in promoting regional integration. So it's my pleasure and privilege to be a moderator of this session. First of all, I would like to thank the Competition Authority of Kenya for their hospitality and for organizing this workshop. I'm sorry. So, may I ask to show the presentation? Okay, thank you. In recent years, there have been an increased emphasis on the role of regional organizations in the world. These organizations have gained importance to those several factors, including globalization. Yeah, thank you. Globalization, the need for regional stability, the intention for regional economic integration. Advancing regional integration can be achieved by promoting trade liberalization, removing barriers to the movement of goods, services, and capital, harmonizing regulations, rising consumer welfare, etc. I think an important role in this process is assigned to competition advocacy. I would like to note that 3 years ago, the Eurasian Economic Commission, with the kind support and technical assistance of UNCTAD Competition and Consumer Policies Branch, initiated a dialogue of regional organizations on competition issues. These meetings enable the participants to exchange experience, share best practices, and collaborate on enforcement efforts. Competition advocacy has also been a subject matter of our discussion. Let me briefly outline the key factors that contribute to the synergy between competition and regional integration, which were pointed out during our discussions. So you can see in the presentation, the first one is market efficiency. And by advocating for fair competition, regional markets become more efficient. Next one, innovation and productivity. Of course, competition stimulates innovation, which increases the overall productivity of industries in the region, promoting technological advancement and overall progress. One important thing is consumer welfare. Competitive markets often results in lower prices and increased choice for consumers. Another one is attracting investment. Transparent and competitive business environment is attractive for investors. It's not my slide. Okay. Reducing barriers. Competition works to eliminate restrictive practices and barriers to entry into markets. This reduction of obstacles facilitates the movement of goods and services across borders, promoting trade and economic integration. Of course, harmonizing regulation is one of the keys. Collaboration on competition policies helps to harmonize regulatory framework among neighboring countries in the region, and the cross-border collaboration. Competition authorities working together can address anti-competitive behavior that goes beyond national boundaries. These collaborative efforts ensures a level playing field and strengthens the overall integrity of the regional markets. So all the organizations during our meetings have agreed that regional organizations cannot effectively achieve the objectives of competition advocacy without collaborating with national competition authorities. I think we can say the same for the cooperation between national competition authorities within the region. So on this slide, you can see the key strategies that regional organizations mentioned during our meetings. Policy harmonization, capacity building, information sharing, just investigations, of course, advocacy programs, dispute resolution mechanism, technical assistance, cross-sectoral collaboration, and of course, very important issue, regular meetings, forum, conferences, seminars, and other. So today we have an opportunity to discuss these issues with our panelists based on their experience. Now I would like to ask the speakers to share their ideas on the role of competition advocacy on the regional integration processes and ways of collaboration with national competition authorities. Please, 7 minutes for each question intervention is possible. Thank you. And I think we can move here. According to our agenda, the first speaker is Alexia from COMESA Competition Commission. COMESA Competition Commission has a competition regime which covers 21 countries in the region in Africa. And could you please share your experience and tell us how effective the regional competition regime has been in breaking barriers on facilitating the flows of goods and services in the COMESA region? Please, Alexia.
So thank you very much, Amin, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you at this Icn workshop. I hope the sound will be our friend this morning. It has its moments, but we thank you. I know our team is doing its best to make sure it's good for us. Yeah, so also thank you to the Icn for giving the COMESA Competition Commission an opportunity to share its experiences in this panel. And in response to what Amin has requested of me to speak about, I think it's very important for everyone here to appreciate what the competition regulatory framework looks like in the COMESA region, because I don't want to assume we are all together on that. I think it's very important for us to begin there. And what I would like to say at the is that we have the treaty, the COMESA Treaty, which is the foundation upon which competition is regulated in the COMESA region. And the beautiful thing about this treaty is that the 21 member states, the 21 governments of the member states, they made a commitment to prohibit anti-competitive practices. And this commitment was expressly provided for in the treaty. And on top of that, they empowered the Council of Ministers of the COMESA to enact regulations. And these regulations are binding on all COMESA states. So that is the very beginning point. So that when we are talking about effectiveness, we must ask ourselves, where is the starting point? So the starting point is that we have a treaty which recognizes the importance of regulating competition, and that it comes up with regulations which are binding on the member states, which are in this particular regional economic bloc. Further on, we have the COMESA competition regulations, which were enacted pursuant to this particular treaty, and every member state in the treaty and in the regulations has an obligation to ensure that these particular provisions are given effect at the national level. You'll find that at the national level, we have the various 21 member states regulating competition at the national level. Then we have the COMESA Competition Commission regulating at the regional level. And you'll hear even our boss, Dr. Mwemba, always saying that a competition regulator cannot operate in isolation. We work together with the member states so that we can be able to be effective. So COMESA Competition Commission celebrated 10 years of existence last year, and I can see some faces who are present in this particular celebration last year. And it's very good that this morning we're asking ourselves, have we been effective as a commission? And our position is that we have been effective, and I'll be giving you the reasons why. Because first of all, we have a binding regulation, that is the COMESA competition regulations, which provides for the mandate of the commission, and that is to regulate anti-competitive practices, to regulate abuse of dominance, to regulate anti-competitive mergers and consumer protection. As we go a step ahead, you will find it has a wide scope, and the scope is that all economic activities which are taking place in the COMESA region are also covered by these regulations. So if there is a company which is conducting certain anti-competitive practices in a member state, at the same time it goes across the borders to another member state and still does the same anti-competitive practices, the question is, can this regulation intervene? So the regulations provide for various mechanisms under which the regional regulator will work with the national regulators. One of them is the referral mechanism when it comes to mergers, and we'll look at whether this merger, does it affect the member state more, or does it affect a regional, does it have a regional dimension, such that if it affects Kenya, Zambia, Uganda, we ask ourselves, who's best to deal with it? Is it the COMESA Competition Commission? Is it Uganda? Is it Kenya? Where is it most impacting? And then at the end of the day, the rights, oh, I thought I was being heard. I hope you heard all that I said. I was feeling like you were saying yes. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much at the back. Thank you. Yes. So those are some of the things that we've been asking ourselves. There's the issue of referral. So you'll find that systems where and instances where the COMESA competition has let a national regulator take control of a matter and impose the necessary measures, and there are instances where the competition regulator, now that the regional regulator, to be able to impose these particular measures. So we have a number of instances where we have intervened, and one of them is that we had a recent merger which was prohibited. I'm sure you're all aware, the Icn Nobel case. And this particular merger, we found that it was not, it was anti-competitive for 3 particular countries. And the commission said, in these 3 particular countries, we cannot allow this merger to take place. Because at the end of the day, the commission found that to allow this particular transaction to take place would not promote the particular treaty which says, let us prevent restrictive trade practices from taking place. So even at the same time, we found that in a particular, in the remedies which are to be imposed in this instance, like in Malawi, we found that if we don't put in place remedies, there would be loss of jobs. So that's why I'm here saying that indeed we have been effective in their instances. At the same time, we have intervened where the exclusive agreements. One of the cases, which you will find also on our website, is the Coca-Cola case. We found that there were certain clauses in the distribution agreements which were stipulating for profits and commission, which at the end of the day was going to lock out other competitors. So we intervened, and Coca-Cola undertook to remedy these particular cases, clauses. At the same time, we've had instances where we had our first appeal case. It took, yes, I can see, Amin is telling me, hurry up. Yeah, so we had our first appeal case in 2022, and this was a very big breakthrough for us. So, we have been working with the national competition authorities. We've signed various MOUs with them to try and see how can we work together to ensure that we are achieving at the regional level and the national level so that there's flow of goods and services in the COMESA region. So as I conclude, I'd like to say that as at now, the COMESA competition has signed 16 memorandum of understanding to the various national competition authorities. At the same time, 19 out of the 21 COMESA member states have enacted laws and institutions, and this has helped us to achieve our effectiveness as a regulator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexia. It was very interesting. Now let me give the floor to Elvira from COFECE Mexico, and I would like to ask you to introduce how competition advocacy impacts Mexico's regional integration. I'm sorry, but I need to show you this one, which I borrowed from one professor from plenary session yesterday. Please keep the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Armine. I'd like to start by thanking the ICN as well as the CAK for organizing and hosting this event. It is a pleasure for me to be here representing COFECE and to share with you our experience in promoting competition at a regional level, but also, and that's what I'm going to focus on this first part of my intervention, to share with you how regional integration it has an impact in Mexico for COFECE especially. So first of all, of course, COFECE recognizes the importance of competition policy and the importance of promoting competition policy principles at a regional level and within countries of a bloc. And these two, of course, benefit and increase economic growth as well as intense competition among these countries. So some of the main benefits that we see from regional integration and advocating competition policy principles are, well, new market and employment opportunities, lower prices, greater consumer choice, and also innovation, but not only from an economic perspective, but also from a political and social perspective, which is where I'm going to focus today. So Mexico has several legal instruments that incorporate provisions on competition policy. So there are three main different types. The first one would be, of course, free trade agreements, which most of the free trade agreements that Mexico has today contain a specific chapter on competition policy where countries agree to cooperate in terms of exchanging information, notifications, and consultations, just to mention a few. We also have bilateral agreements that take place within governments and that cover topics on competition policy, and also bilateral agreements that are signed directly by competition agencies around the world. So although there are many examples of these kind of agreements that Mexico holds, because Mexico and COFECE understand the importance of promoting competition internationally, I'm going to refer to one specific example to illustrate this cooperation, and that is our cooperation with our North American partners. Okay, yeah. So within the United States Mexico and Canada agreement, we have, of course, a competition policy chapter. And we also, since 2010, hold trilateral meetings on an annual basis. So in these meetings, COFECE sits with Canada's Competition Bureau, with the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice, and with the Federal Trade Commission, and we share experiences, we share methodologies, we learn from each other, and we share some issues that might be useful for us when conducting an investigation, or when analyzing a merger, or when actually designing advocacy strategies to get to the people, to the general public, or to people with the population within our countries. So last year in January in Mexico, we hosted this year's trilateral meeting, and here all three countries they recognize the necessity of having robust and technical competition authorities to guarantee competitive markets, to guarantee innovation, inclusive economic development, so that this could actually increase the welfare of the population. Our COFECE's chairwoman, Andrea Marvan, emphasized a new phase of competition policy that is being sought by right now to deepen international collaboration and also lead to greater sanctions and generate tangible benefits for the Mexican society. So last year, COFECE, it was its 10th anniversary of being an autonomous body from the Mexican state. So now, as we enter this second decade, the global economy faces a new generation of challenges. And facing these challenges require a united international community. Okay. Huh. Okay. Hello. Yeah. So, no. One. Hello. Yes. Thank you. So having this trilateral meeting and being aware of the importance of these efforts that we do with our region, besides underlining the benefits of competition within these other agencies, it brought us the opportunity of showing the importance of COFECE being an autonomous body and how this has a relevant role in guaranteeing competition and free market access in Mexico to the benefit of consumers. And this is actually very important for us in our current political context, where currently the executive power in Mexico has presented a reform to actually eliminate independent institutions such as COFECE. So for us, it has been key, and it is still key, to have this cooperation between our fellow agencies, so that we can continue guaranteeing the efficiency of markets and promoting competition within our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvia. Now our next speaker is Martina from Competition and Consumer Protection Authority of Poland. She is online with us. Hope she can join us.
Yes, Ermina, I am connected. I hope you can see and hear me well.
Hi, Martina.
Yes, hi, Ermina, can you hear me well?
Hi, Martina. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me well? Is there a problem with connection?
Martina, if you hear us, I can address my question while our technical specialists are trying to make your voice a little. Martina? Yes, I can hear. Oh, it's okay. Did you hear my question? I did not hear your question now, but I suspect it's the same one that we agreed on. So if you can hear me well, I can answer. Okay, yes, please. Okay, so thank you very much. Congratulations on this panel as well. I find the theme and the topic of this panel extremely interesting. Grateful to Armina for her presentation because that's also something I wanted to start with. We are talking about successful economic integration here, and my very starting question is, to what extent cooperation on competition law enforcement and regulation contributes to economic integration? And presentation of Armina has actually pointed out to some extent some ideas on that, on how to answer this question. And I think in general, talking about economic integration is a very ambitious issue, and using competition as a proxy to economic integration is also extremely interesting as a question. So again, thanks Armina for your presentation. I always wonder what exactly does economic integration mean and how can be achieved through competition. And I think that harmonization of laws and enforcement is a very good starting point. Before I describe an initiative that we carry out at the Polish Competition and Consumer Protection Office, I would just very briefly like to point out what are other initiatives as well. So we had just a colleague from COMESA describing COMESA, which is an excellent and wonderful example of economic integration via competition. And I really find this a very, very good example. The same with the Icn, the European Competition Network that we have in Europe, where all European competition agencies pursue joint enforcement and have a very we have a legal basis for cooperating on cases between the European Commission and between member states. And both of those examples, COMESA and Icn, are very I think one of the best examples of economic integration via competition. For us in Europe, we have Icn for having harmonized competition rules for the EU single market, and I think these are the two examples that we should always think about when we are talking about economic integration. But the question of this panel also concerns competition advocacy, and here one thing is cooperating on hard enforcement, like joint enforcement, like we do in Icn, for example, and the other thing is soft enforcement, when we do all kinds of soft cooperation initiatives, and it can be either a starting point of a harder enforcement cooperation, or it can be a very good supplement of it. The question is, in different regions of the world, what works better and what is realistic. In the EU, we have the European Union, which makes it really much easier for us to do a harder enforcement, which brings actually tangible benefits in terms of competition law enforcement. And I think those kind of initiatives really do make an impact on integration. But soft enforcement is very important as well. Even though in Europe we have the Icn, the Polish Competition and Consumer Protection Office has last year launched a regional cooperation initiative concerning 8 EU member states and 2 newest EU candidate states, Ukraine and Moldova, which is underlined by a memorandum of understanding that we signed last year, and it provides us with complementary to Icn soft cooperation measures, where we can conduct workshops, we identify our cooperation needs, we conduct workshops on
on a variety of themes. We have ad hoc consultation possibilities, and the very specificity of this is that we have EU states and also EU candidate states that are part of this initiative. The aim of this initiative for us was to have possibility of a more familiar environment. You know, the ECN contains 27 member states. That's quite a lot, and it's very useful. And we also have possibilities of kind of software exchange, but these are many countries. When we come together in this region of Central Eastern Europe, it gives us a more familiar environment for cooperating and really coming together and having roundtable discussions on themes that we find very tricky or difficult. And for that reason, we find it a very good way to complement any other form of cooperation that we have. And it's a very bottom-up approach, and we really only discuss things that are pressing and important for us. And we find this a very good exchange platform. And it started really for kind of support that we felt for our neighbors, and then it evolved into a multilateral capacity building initiative that has then evolved into a memorandum of understanding, and it continues to be a very good platform for exchange. And this is indeed a very good example of cooperation. On the other hand, we do also feel like we would like to have some more joint enforcement measure. For example, having we've heard examples from colleagues on conducting joint market studies, for example, or cross-border market studies, or doing more joint enforcement. And this is something, now moving again to this harder enforcement, which I think would be very beneficial to pursue, but it is very tricky. So we need to see how to implement it, and whether it's to what extent it is beneficial and in what context. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martina. And the only gentleman among us, Stephen from Federal Trade Commission, United States. Can you share your examples when competition advocacy has led to more competitive markets and influence regional economic integration?
Thank you, Armin, and good day, everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Dr. Adano, Nanette, and everyone else from the Competition Authority of Kenya for hosting this wonderful workshop in your beautiful country. It's a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to have met so many of you during this week. I'd also like to note that the views that I express here are my own and don't necessarily reflect the Commission or any individual commissioner. So in response to your question, one example of competition that has created significant regional benefits from the perspective of the United States is our work at the FTC with state attorneys general around the country. These state attorneys generals are responsible for enforcing state competition laws in the 50 states that comprise the United States. The FTC works closely with these state attorneys general on both enforcement and policy matters. And one example of significant advocacy works relates to what is known as a COPA. A COPA is a certificate of public advantage, which are laws adopted by state governments that shield hospital mergers from federal antitrust review, replacing this review with state regulatory oversight. Over the decades, a number of states have issued these COPAs, the result of which is that numerous hospital mergers have been shielded from review by the FTC. The FTC has spent several decades and substantial resources to develop expertise in evaluating hospital mergers and identified that there was a problem in the enforcement of these deals. Notably, the FTC became concerned about this practice whereby states were issuing COPAs and shielding hospital mergers from FTC review. And in 2017, the FTC announced a market study into the efficacy of these COPAs. This market study came about organically. The FTC realized that we have the resources to do a study like this, while it may be difficult for individual states to do this market study resource-wise. The FTC also realized that there was a need for this type of market study. No one had previously done a market study or any in-depth analysis on the efficacy of COPAs, so there was an obvious connection between the need for a market study and our ongoing hospital enforcement efforts. After identifying the need for this project, the FTC engaged in numerous forms of advocacy over the last 7 years. FTC staff first researched the history of COPAs, and in an effort to learn more, requested empirical research and invited public comments. Then the FTC hosted a public workshop on the topic, which included panelists from academia, consulting firms, private industry, as well as state attorney generals. In addition, the FTC used its ability to compel responses as part of a market study to obtain information from health insurance companies and health systems. After engaging in all of these fact-finding efforts, the FTC issued a policy paper and fact sheet that summarized the findings and the problems identified. The FTC's research into COPAs demonstrated that they have resulted in significant price increases and contributed to declines in quality of care while also slowing wage growth for hospital workers, including nurses and pharmacy workers. This is not surprising given that a hospital merger would likely not need a COPA preventing federal merger review unless there were anti-competitive effects. So since doing this research, the FTC has engaged in significant advocacy with the states. The FTC has written papers providing information for state lawmakers that are considering proposed legislation regarding COPAs and urged state lawmakers in states with existing COPA laws to consider repealing them. In addition, the FTC has submitted written public comments and provided public testimony to states that are considering whether to adopt new COPA laws. While assessing the effectiveness of advocacy efforts and studies can sometimes be challenging, we have closely monitored the legislative landscape here to see if our efforts have had a positive impact. The FTC's advocacy efforts are ongoing, but it's worth noting that no COPAs have been issued in any of the 50 US states over the last 3 years. And last year, a proposed hospital merger in New York that sought a COPA was abandoned following a public comment submitted by the FTC opposing the COPA application. So I share this as a concrete example of how advocacy efforts have enhanced prosperity within a region, in this context, with states within the United States, but also in the broader region because these effects of COPAs impact hospitals, workers, and patients, often across state lines. So this is an example in the domestic regional context, but I'd also like to share a quick example in the international context. And this example relates to Canada's recent work to update their Competition Act. Last year, at the request of Canada's Competition Bureau, the FTC and Department of Justice shared experiences from the United States perspective on certain key aspects of Canada's competition law that were being considered for updates. This collaboration stems from the close integration of the US and Canadian economies and the real benefits from having similar agency capabilities given the high degree of overlap. It also stems from our close working relationship with regional partners, both Canada and Mexico, as Elvia mentioned. Just last month, the FTC and DOJ attended the annual trilateral meeting with enforcers from Mexico and Canada in Mexico City. So in response to the request, the head of the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division and the chair of the FTC sent a joint letter in March of 2023 to Canada's Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, sharing their experiences on a variety of key competition issues. This letter included US merger experience related to topics such as the way that efficiencies are considered in merger analysis, noting that US merger law does not permit an efficiencies defense, and no court has ever allowed an otherwise illegal merger to proceed on the grounds of efficiencies. In December 2023, amendments to Canada's Competition Act became law. Some of the amendments relate to points that were shared in the United States' letter. For example, the amendments repeal the efficiencies defense for anti-competitive mergers and business collaborations. In addition, the new amendments grant additional information gathering authority in market studies. So this is a prime example of advocacy in the regional context, which demonstrates the tremendous opportunities for shared learning by agencies that face similar competitive issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephen. Now let me address some specific questions to each of our speakers according to the presentation, and discuss what competition agencies do on competition advocacy to promote regional integration in a frame of modern challenges. And let me ask my first question to Elvia. Can you share an example of a regional effort currently being done by COFESE?
Thank you. So I'm going to refer to a regional effort that's actually, the focus is within Mexico, so it's kind of in line of what Steve just mentioned. Just to put you in context, COFESE, as you know, is the national agency responsible for promoting competition. There are no local competition authorities, and we don't have the figure of state attorney general in Mexico. So to fully achieve COFESE's mandate, proactive collaboration with strategic partners must be built. So as I mentioned earlier, last year on our 10th anniversary celebrations, we took the time to sit and reflect on our first 10 years of existence, which challenges we have encountered and where we want to go next. So we actually listed some lessons, and I'm going to refer now to two of them, the ones that have to do with advocacy, of course. And one of the lessons was the importance of strengthening collaboration and increase advocacy efforts at all levels, so that we can reach a wider audience and a wider proportion of the Mexican population. And the second one is that competition conditions must be tangible to all. So with this in mind, we designed a strategy to expand enforcement and mainly advocacy tools to a state level in Mexico, to promote competition, to eliminate regulatory obstacles at a state level, to provide training, and to increase detections through information exchange and outreach efforts. And this because it is state governments who tend to have superior on-the-ground knowledge about how is the competition dynamics within and regulatory issues that they face at their local level, and both from a business and consumer perspective. So in less than a year since we first launched this new strategy, we have already formalized collaboration with the first 3 states in Mexico. So with them, we have defined potential joint initiatives around competition advocacy, around regulatory analysis, investigation capacity building, and information exchange for these purposes. So we have discussed with them draft legislations so that they take into account competition policy principles, that they do not limit or restrict competition in any way. We have also talked to the private sector about the importance of having compliance programs in their businesses. And of course, we have talked as well to small and medium enterprises, first of them to make sure that they know the law, the competition law, their implications, so that they can on the one hand comply with the law, but on the other also detect and be aware of anything that may affect them that probably is in violation of the law, and how they can actually get close to COFESE to let us know. We have also organized conferences tailored to students to increase and promote their interest in competition policy as a professional path. So this has allowed us to promote greater efficiency in the markets, to work closer to local and state governments, to reach the academia and students from a wider range of universities, and to promote knowledge and compliance of the competition law within the private sector.
Thank you, Elvia. My next question is for Martina. Are there specific challenges or obstacles that you have encountered in advocating for competition at a regional level, and how you have have you addressed them, especially in the context of global economic changes? Martina?
Yes. Can you hear?
Yeah. Did you hear?
Perfect. Yes, I heard everything now, and I hope it works better. I think it's I should have been there in Nairobi really, because now it's the price I pay for not being able to be with you guys. But anyway, I'm very happy to be online at least. Thanks very much for the question. And I tried making this differentiation between softer and harder cooperation, which to me is quite important because, as I mentioned previously, softer cooperation, which is in forms of doing joint exchanges, workshops, having ad hoc consultations, exchange of practices, exchange of ideas, it's extremely important. But harder, more specific measures of cooperation, such as joint enforcement or joint activities, really. Joint enforcement activities are actually the ones that bring very tangible benefits. And again, it's not to say that software enforcement doesn't bring such benefits. It's actually extremely valuable. And without this sort of cooperation, we would have no other benefits of cooperation. So that's super important. And particularly harder cooperation measures are extremely tricky because there is administrative barriers, there is legal barriers, confidentiality issues. So this is something that is basically the biggest challenge in overcoming this sort of cooperation. But we also have challenges that are very connected to the current trends in the global economy. It is a question for me, how can we start and how can we take further soft cooperation measures to be able to really deliver tangible enforcement outcomes, such as legal harmonization or joint activities. Furthermore, that concerns joint activities in competition law. How can this further contribute to economic integration? That is the next question. If we look also on the current trends in the global economy and take on a more future-proof perspective, we'll see that those challenges become even more relevant and even more important, because we have globalized trade and commerce, we have globalized value chains, and all of those are becoming increasingly transnational. We have practices, not only in the digital sector, but in many other sectors that are taking place in many places. And we have this debate on how decisions in one jurisdiction can have this extraterritorial effect or spillover effect. And I think these are very important questions that we should try and focus on. And these are the questions that really are constituting the biggest obstacle to cooperation. Because again, soft cooperation is very important, but it is not that difficult. We don't have that many barriers to it. Of course, we need to mobilize and we have to develop this kind of cooperation reflex, whether it's a formalized cooperation or a non-formalized technical cooperation. But then it's very easy to get together and exchange ideas and experiences. But how can we take this further to address current global challenges that are due to this transnational effect of practices? That's really the question that I think we should try to answer. And also, I think even in places, in regions of the world where we have a stronger formalized cooperation, like the Icn, for example, also there, this kind of issues are also an issue in terms of whether a decision in one member state have a spillover effect on other member states. So even in those examples of very strong and hard enforcement cooperation, we also experience those issues. And we also, by the way of this discussion of extraterritorial effects of decision, we debate frequently that enterprises may or may not have incentives to harmonize their approach and conduct based on decisions. Even though we would expect that in some cases, for example, in digital cases, they would have the incentives to harmonize, because that would kind of make it easier for them to have harmonized approaches, harmonized conduct in different places. They don't do it. So our expectations are not frequently coming to reality. But what can we do about this? And I think advocacy is exactly the answer to this, and cooperation. We can do advocacy together between agencies internationally and with international organizations, because that gives us a stronger, unified enforcement approach. Not to speak even about legal harmonization. Of course, that's also important, and it also gives us unified messages to global enterprises and conduct. And if we make it, if we manage, we can try and achieve joint enforcement, joint measures. But in general, I think this cooperation reflects on enforcement, and on legal harmonization is something very important. But this is precisely the place where international organizations can play a very important role. Not only in encouraging the idea of regional cooperation, but to try and analyze the issues. What are the obstacles? How can we increase the spillover effects? To what extent do we want? Because of course there is different approaches to competition in different regions of the world and in different countries. So this is a very important field of research and analysis by international organizations or academia. International organizations and academia can also provide us frameworks for, first of all, potential analysis of transnational or joint enforcement, but also provide frameworks for such cooperation. For example, on how to overcome certain legal differences or how to overcome confidentiality issues in less integrated parts of the world. But perhaps another way to approach those challenges in addressing issues of a globalized economy and competition and integration is to look for small steps and try reaching for low-hanging fruits. So acting in the areas that are perhaps easiest to start with, for example, digital sector, or looking for other sorts of sectors where agreements frequently or abuses, so for example, dominant position take place and have a transnational effect. And starting to see how in those specific examples there could be harmonized approaches, or more harmonized approaches. And this is precisely, I think, how we could try and achieve this. And I think cooperation and more reflection on tangible effects of cooperation on enforcement could bring us much farther to try and address those global issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Martina. And back to Stephen. So can you share the United States experience on working with other agencies to promote competition in the region, particularly concerns to barriers and seeking to foster innovation, technological advancement within your region?
Yes, so in terms of working with other government agencies, I would like to share today the United States' current whole-of-government approach to competition, whereby enforcement agencies like the FTC and the Department of Justice are not working alone, but rather working alongside other federal agencies to promote competition. In 2021, US President Biden signed an executive order called Promoting Competition in the American Economy that called on federal agencies to deploy their tools and legal authority. The executive order provides 15 named agencies across the government with an action plan, a whole of approach to promoting competition, in part by removing barriers that stifle competition. One of the ideas behind this whole-of-government approach is that when agencies have overlapping jurisdiction, they should endeavor to cooperate fully in the exercise of their oversight authority and benefit from the collective expertise of other agencies in order to improve the government's ability to promote competition. One concrete example of competition policies aimed at breaking down barriers and facilitating the flow of services across borders within the United States relates to the FTC's work on non-competes, an item cited in the executive order that unfairly limits worker mobility. As background, non-competes are clauses in an employee's contract that prevent them from working for a competing employer or starting a competing business after their current employment ends. By design, non-competes restrict workers' ability to move freely to their most natural alternative employment option in a given geographical area. In the United States, while some states have taken the lead on trying to prevent them, non-competes are widespread, affecting roughly 1 in 5 American workers, or approximately 30 million people. Non-compete clauses reduce competition and suppress wages even for workers that are not subject to a non-compete, because non-competes prevent workers from switching to jobs where they would be better paid and more productive, creating opportunities for workers not subject to a non-compete to replace them. Non-competes also harm employers because they're unable to attract and hire workers that are restrained by non-competes through offering better working conditions, pay, or benefits. The FTC estimated that a ban on non-competes would increase workers' total earnings by close to $300 billion per year. In one critical sector alone, the healthcare sector, FTC estimates show that a ban on non-competes would save consumers approximately $150 billion annually. To combat non-competes, the FTC has held public workshops specifically looking to see if there's a legal basis and empirical economic support to promulgate a rule restricting the use of these non-competes. These workshops featured legal scholars, economists, and policy experts. But the FTC isn't attacking this problem alone, but rather working alongside other federal agencies like the Department of Labor and the National Labor Relations Board under the whole-of-government approach. The FTC's work in this area led to the proposal of a new rule that would ban employers from imposing non-competes on their workers. As part of this process, the FTC held a public forum and sought public comment on the proposed rule, an endeavor which led to the receipt of over 21,000 public comments. The rulemaking process is still ongoing, and no decision about the proposed rule has been made. But tackling non-competes is an example of how the whole-of-government approach can lead to more effective removal of competitive restraints. By leveraging the resources of multiple agencies and coordinating where possible, an enforcement agency like the Federal Trade Commission is able to combat barriers that stifle competition, here non-competes, more effectively than if it were simply acting alone. While this whole-of-government approach focuses on solely on efforts within the United States, this work has important spillover effects to other countries that face similar issues. I'll note that other countries like the United Kingdom, the CMA there, as well as the Netherlands, have recently initiated research into the use of non-competes in their countries. This highlights that advocacy in the domestic context can play an important role in competition policies in neighboring countries and around the world, given that many jurisdictions face similar competitive issues. To share another example of the US's whole-of-government approach and the way that it is being used in order to foster innovation and technological advancement, I'll share the FTC's recent work related to artificial intelligence. Last October, President Biden issued an executive order on the safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. Recognizing that AI holds extraordinary potential for both promise and peril, this executive order seeks, among other things, to promote innovation and competition in AI via a coordinated government-wide approach to doing so. Because AI is a nascent technology, the FTC has moved quickly and invested in learning more about AI through market studies and public workshops, in addition to bringing several enforcement actions. Last year, the FTC did a market study into generative AI and the creative economy. This study included a public roundtable with discussion featuring visual artists, screenwriters, actors, programmers, musicians, and models, and culminated in a report that highlighted concerns identified during the study. In January of this year, the FTC hosted a tech summit focused on artificial intelligence. At the summit, the FTC announced the launch of a market study, issuing orders to 5 companies requiring them to provide information regarding recent investments and partnerships involving generative AI companies and major cloud service providers. But the FTC has not been working alone, as numerous other U.S. agencies like the Department of Commerce, Department of State, and the Treasury Department have been working rapidly to implement policies that promote innovation and the safe use of artificial intelligence as directed by the executive order. In the case of AI, this whole-of-government approach is being applied in order to meet the challenges posed by new industries and technologies as they develop. AI and competition in AI, like many other industries, does not recognize geographical borders, and the U.S. is certainly not alone in seeking to promote innovation and competition within the space. Many countries around the globe are working on AI governance frameworks, conducting market studies, and learning collectively from the work done in other jurisdictions. Again, I share this as a second example of the efficacy of applying the whole-of-government approach to competition issues.
Thank you very much. And ultimately, one of the main goals of competition authorities is to promote consumers' welfare. So my question to Alexia, I would like to ask you how COMESA, Competition Commission, applies competition advocacy in the COMESA region to directly influence regional economic integration and lead to increased consumer welfare.
All right, thank you, Amin. I'd like to begin by stating that the COMESA Competition Commission has been very active. And I know someone was telling me just before this panel session, they've been seeing a lot of activity on social media platforms. But one thing we recognize is you can enforce, but the enforcement can be diminished if you don't do proper advocacy. So one of the things that the Commission decided to do in 2022 is to establish a research unit that would be able to spearhead all advocacy efforts so that we could be able to achieve greater regional integration, and we could also be able to achieve greater consumer welfare. So some of the things that we do are under various headings. The first thing is that we do technical assistance. That is a very big part of what the COMESA Competition Commission does with its member states. And we undertake workshops, we review laws, we review regulations to check whether those particular regulations are advancing competition. And in areas where the national competition authorities have not been established, we work very closely to advocate for the establishment of the institutions. And like you heard yesterday, Uganda is the latest member state that has enacted a law. And this was also from a range of advocacy efforts on the part of the Commission. We have various informal networks which have been very effective in helping us to also achieve regional integration and to be able to increase consumer awareness. And we have the Restrictive Business Practices Network, which all COMESA member states are part of. We have the Mergers Business Network also, which the Mergers Network, which also involves all the COMESA member states. We have the Consumer Protection Committee of the COMESA. We have the Research Network. So we have been establishing various networks, even the journalist networks. We don't want to leave anybody out, so that at the end of the day, we can have a collaborative effort in the COMESA region, so that even as we seek to get the message out there on competition enforcement, that we are working together. We've also had other ways in which we advocate. We have attachments, and we do it in two ways. We get national competition institutions which are advanced. We can even pick a staff member from there, and then we send them to a young competition agency to be able to train them. Sometimes we take staff members from competition agencies that are also which have just been established, and we also place them in more advanced competition authorities. So I know the Competition Authority of Kenya is one of such agencies who have been able to help member states, I think like Ethiopia, I understand, and other member states. And we also have other COMESA member states which are involved in helping this kind of situations. So one thing we've realized is that the more we advocate, the more also the member states call upon the Commission to assist. Something very interesting we noted is that when we held the second regional judges workshop for COMESA, I would say it was successful, because after that, one of the member states called the Commission and said, come and train our judges. We will give you everybody, from the Chief Justice to the High Court judges to the Court of Appeal judges. We trained everybody. We did not leave anybody out in that COMESA member state. But how did this come about? Through advocacy. So yes, we have been engaging in various ways, and it has helped us to undertake capacity building, to be able to train, so that as much as we're enforcing, whether we're imposing fines like what we did in December 2023, when we find the CAF, those kind of things will be diminished if we are not having effective advocacy. So let me stop there. I know we've said so much this morning, but basically what we can say is that as the COMESA Competition Commission, we have found advocacy to be very effective. And as you heard our director saying yesterday, we must find ways to increase our budgets for advocacy, so that as we enforce, we are able to get a greater message out there to have better advocacy and enforcement. Thank you, Amin.
Thank you very much. So, does anyone want to add something? Or okay, as we conclude, I would like to thank all of our panelists. Yes, and let me conclude, briefly summarize, and after that, if we have time, we can go we can give the time to the hall to ask the questions. Once more, I would like to underline that competition advocacy promotes regional integration by fostering a competitive and open market environment, which in turn stimulates economic growth and cooperation among neighboring countries. By collaborating, national competition authorities and regional organizations can achieve and create robust framework that promote competition, economic growth, and harmonized regional integration. So let me give the floor, let me give the chance to floor to ask the questions, if there are any.
Thank you so much. Terrific presentations and a lot of learning for us. Two quick questions to Alexia and Armin already, if I may. Alexei, I talked about COMESA, 21 members and 16 MOUs. One of the things which is quite interesting for me to learn more about is, I'm very familiar with the setup in Europe and the regional integration, how it works. Why, after, as you said very rightly, member states committed themselves to work together in this space, right? So this is fundamentally important, right? That's what all regional integration is all about. Why then they need at all for memoranda of understanding? They've just said, yes, we want to do it together. They created you. So why then, on top of that, we need MOUs? Like, for me, MOUs, I see their role and significance. But at the same time, COMESA is a regional creature, underpinned by a strong treaty with yourself and all the colleagues there. Why do we need MOUs in this space on top of that? And moving to Armine, coming from, I remember we took part together in one of the Eurasian forums. I was able to speak in Almaty, and I recall conversations among agencies from the region. I found it very, very interesting. How the experiences in Euro-Asian region relate to the work of COMESA. What sort of challenges you would be facing if you refer to that project, right? Because these are interesting sort of case studies of regional integration, and I would love to hear how you see it yourself, from the perspective of Euro-Asian region. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Martinez, for that question. I think you've asked a very critical question. Why do we need MOUs? MOUs are very important to us as a regional regulator because we view them as a framework of engagement. Yes, the member state has their law. Yes, COMESA competition has their law. But how do we work together? Because we find there are situations where a company may fall into the temptation of forum shopping. They may say that when we are subject to COMESA, maybe the fines are not so hefty. Or if we are subject to another COMESA member state, fines are not so hefty. So we want to avoid situations where we are not working together as a regional regulator and as the domestic regulator, and we end up having situations where we have a bit of a tug of war. So we don't want situations where maybe the Competition Authority of Kenya comes up with its own decision, we come up with our own decision, and now businesses are confused that we are investing money in this region, so where do we go? Yes, so in terms of the MOUs, there are very many things which are provided for in there in terms of how we collaborate. Of course, there's the issues around confidentiality. At the end of the day, we'll have transactions, and those transactions will be notified to us under confidentiality. So how do we protect confidentiality? For example, if we say we are going to conduct investigations in a particular member state, and we want to conduct them jointly, so the MOU provides a framework of how we can protect those kind of scenarios. How are we going to work together to maybe undertake joint awareness activities? How are we going to work together to ensure there's joint enforcement? Or maybe even one of the success stories like for Kenya when we were having the issue about double notification, how do we address those kind of issues? So basically we think it's important because there's a lot of benefit that comes from that framework of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would like to say that we don't have MOU with our member states. We have a treaty on Eurasian Economic Union. We have 5 member states, and we work with them very closely. Of course, we have problems. We must be open to discuss with them everything, and to prove that we can work effectively. Sometimes our member states don't want to give us some power. So, for example, we don't have power of mergers. So it is not good because the national competition authorities reviews mergers only on the one country on national level, and we have not an opportunity to analyze and to understand how this or another major influence on the regional level. So it is a problem, and we ask our member state to give us this power, but they say, prove that you can work effective, and after that we can discuss. So I think we need to work hardly to prove that we are work effectively, we can do something, and our work can have a positive influence on within the region. So I would like to add that our problems are very similar to COMESA problems, as I understand, and we have an MOU with COMESA. We are working together to try to share our experience, and I think the dialogue between regional organizations is very important because we have a little bit different problems, a little bit different issues than the national competition authorities. So, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, this is the final session, and all of us want to go to see the Nairobi, to see giraffes, safari, and maybe a very tasty food. So, okay, I would like to thank all our panelists, of course, Competition Authority of Kenya for hospitality and for organizing this interesting workshop. And have a nice time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynette, for the ambush. The workshop has been very, very great for me. It's provided a lot of insights. I have learned a lot. And of course, in the process, I have also managed to network. The venue for me was fantastic. The food was very good. I think I can just summarize it by saying that it's been a very, very enjoyable experience. It's been great, and I look forward to many, many more workshops like this. To all our visitors, particularly those not from Kenya, just to really thank them and to wish them safe travels on their way back to their destinations. And please take our greetings to your respective authorities once you get back. Kwaherini sana. Thank you.
Tunataka mchenjie mic, mbona mnaziregesha?
You've assisted in every step of the way whenever we had a challenge. So for me, what I can say is that amazing experience for the guests who have come from different countries. Thank you so much. And I hope that you take time to enjoy the other good things about our country. So for me, thank you so much. Wonderful experience.
Thank you very much. And a bonus one from the ACF chair, Sudesh.
Thank you, Ninette, for this. So on behalf of the ACF, I think this was a wonderful and very enriching workshop. I particularly enjoy all the workshop, but the first one was very good on digital market that we had. And as the first speaker stated, that it was a very good opportunity for networking. I had been able to meet all stakeholders, be it regional, international, and national level. So and learn a lot in terms of how to be very effective, pragmatic with advocacy initiative, and how to prioritize things, how to be focused, how to be impactful through all the experiences shared by the various agencies, Portugal, Italy. So just to name a few, so I think it was a wonderful event for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone who would like to say something? Okay, I have something to say. In this room, we are approximately 100 and something. I only have 28 responses to the evaluation form. Please, could I get at least 70 more? Two minutes, it takes half a minute to fill the questionnaire. You scan the front, this QR code. So when you scan, you'll get to the program, but on page 9 of the program, there's a link. That's the link to the evaluation form. the chair back. Chair, karibu sana. So I'll hand it over to Mr. Joel Omari. Joel is a man of very few words. So he'll not, and Joel, you're standing between us and lunch, so please. Yeah, karibu Joel.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think you've seen that there is a bit on our program where we come to the end of this workshop. And that last bit is the launch of the Competition and Consumer Protection Law Digest. And to lead us through that exercise, we have our chairman, Mr. Shaka Kariuki, and the Director General of the Competition Authority of Kenya, Dr. Adano Wario. Those will be the main men for this bit of our program. So I really don't have much to say, but then to just say that we've taken time to go through the decisions that the authority has made before. We made a number of decisions. Our decisions are mainly decisions of an administrative nature, but then there are also legal or what we call judicial decisions, decisions that have emerged from the Competition Tribunal of Kenya and the High Court of Kenya, in which the authority is a party. That is the kind of information that you will find in that booklet. So I want to really encourage you, get yourself a copy if you can get a hard copy. Also, the publication is going to be available as a download from our website, so I'll also encourage you to go to the website and be able to download your copy of the digest as soon as. So without much ado, I think I want to hand this over to Dr. Adano. Maybe Dr. Adano, come forward and lead us through the next session of this exercise. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Happy to see you all again in full house. Thank you very much for attending the entire session of our workshop. We are really grateful for that. And I think we are coming to almost the tail end of the workshop now. But there are a few things we need to do first before we conclude and close the session. One is, I really want to take this opportunity to thank the entire Icn Advocacy workshop members. And thank you very much. And once again, most welcome to Kenya anytime. And you can extend your stay. You don't have to go back today or tomorrow. You are most welcome to sample part of our landscape and communities. Most welcome. And I think the next task before us is a launch of a Competition and Consumer Digest. This is a select of cases that the authority has made decision over. We call them determinations. We have done more, but we selected a few that we thought it could be a very good start for us to put together in one compilation and share with all the participants and all of us who are here. They cover all the technical areas of our operations, and I don't have to exhaust what is inside, but I will most sincerely welcome you to get your copy and sample as you travel back to wherever you have come from. And also like to take this opportunity to thank all our board members for the direction and guidance of those determinations. Without their guidance, I think we will not have had those determinations in the way they have been done. And I'm happy to say that the cases that touches on the legal aspect that went before the tribunal have also been decided upon, in many of them in our favor. That clearly shows the work we have put into that process and ensure that the evidence is robust and can stand the test of courts of laws. The other thing I think I would like to emphasize is the entire CAK management, and also through the leadership of board of directors and the leadership of our chairman, Shaka Karaoke. I would like to thank him enormously for that contribution and the contribution of the authority for what we are today. I would like to also thank all board of directors, all the participants, and our guests from across the globe. Thank you very much for making it happen with us, and we are really grateful. We have been working on this for a while now, and I think you have seen the outcome of this, and we are very thankful for your participation. Just to mention, the digest was developed in collaboration with and able leadership of our partners, the Kenya Council of Law Reporting, to ensure that that process fits the standard of law reporting in our country. And we really thank them for that process. And I'm sure some of them are in presented in this meeting, and I would like to thank them enormously as well. I would like to also thank the organizing committee of our authority and the leadership of Ninette, who have taken time late in the evening to communicate with everyone who has been here. I think Ninette is known more than any one of us from CAK. And thank you very much, Ninette, for making it happen. And I would like to thank all the CAK staff who have made it happen and make it a success. I think the rest of the members or people in attendance who I would like to thank are the management of Emara Ole Sereni for their partnership, and also the event management company we have engaged to make it happen and make success on this event. Having said that, I would like to wish you all the best. I will not have another chance to stand here and say anything, but I would like to wish you all the best. Safe travel, enjoy your weekend, have the best of Kenya, and travel back safely. And having said that, at this point, I would like to welcome our chairman, Shaka Karaoke, to officially launch the digest for us. Chairman, karibu.
Okay, let me use this then. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I trust that everybody has had an enjoyable time at this workshop. I do realize and understand I'm the one who stands between yourselves and lunch. Having said that, let me go right ahead and talk about briefly about the digest. I know it's been talked about quite a bit and introduced. So I will not go through the speech that somebody who was very kind enough to write for me, but I'll just go to the conclusion and say the digest, the main goal of the digest really is to improve the understanding of competition and consumer protection law among the public and to further develop the depth of jurisprudence. This digest marks the beginning of many more to come and aligns with one of our strategic objectives of establishing the authority as a reputable center for competition and consumer protection policy. This is therefore the first consideration of competition and consumer protection decisions of the authority into a single and easily accessible publication. Ladies and gentlemen, it now gives me great pleasure to officially launch the first edition of the Competition and Consumer Protection Digest.
Thank you very much for that. I'm sure we are all happy. And we have our copies at the registration desk, but we also have an online copy that's available on our website. Please go look through it. It's very interesting and informative, and we are happy to support other agencies that would like to develop it. For now, as we close, I'd like to call Dr. Kenneth Tanate from the Philippines to give us the closing remarks.
Thank you, Ninette. So to Mr. Shaka Karyoke, the board chair of CAK, to Dr. Adano Roba, the acting director general of CAK, members of the CAK board, the Icn the Icn Secretariat and Advocacy Working Group, and to all moderators, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Hello. Okay, as mentioned by Dr. Adano, we have now come to the tail end of this insightful workshop on bouncing back, competition, advocacy, and resilience to global shocks. The past 2 days have been filled with impactful exchanges and experience sharing and meaningful collaboration with antitrust economic experts from all around the globe. The lively discussions and exchange of insights from our esteemed panelists have given us the opportunity to deep dive into the role of competition advocacy in reinforcing resilience amidst global shocks. The various sessions of this workshop have broadened our understanding of the numerous challenges faced by global economies and how competition advocacy plays a crucial role in navigating through the challenges in a dynamic global environment. Further, the sessions also underscored the intricate synergy between competition advocacy and sustainability, innovation, and regional integration. The methodologies for evaluating the effectiveness of advocacy initiatives and the opportunities gained from collaboration with various sector regulators. The path to recovery may seem complex, but as we conclude this workshop, I am hopeful that we will bring with us the lessons that we have learned and continue to work together towards mainstreaming competition policy and encouraging resilience in our own jurisdictions. As we thread through an ever-evolving global landscape, while faced with economic disruptions and downturns, we look forward to further advancing the role of competition advocacy in helping create a sustainable, robust, and resilient global economy in the days ahead. On behalf of the co-chairs of the Advocacy Working Group, composed of the competition authorities of Kenya, the Philippines, Egypt, and Japan, allow me to extend again my utmost gratitude to the following. To Mr. Shaka Karyoke, the chair of the CAK, and Dr. Adano, the acting DG of CAK, for your leadership in making this event happen. To the members of the board of CAK for the guidance, and the staff of the CAK for the execution and hard work. The co-chairs of the AWG and Icn Secretariat, Cynthia is here, for the full support. To our esteemed speakers and moderators for all your efforts and preparations in sharing your expertise, knowledge, and insights. And of course, to all participants, including our non-governmental advisors, for your continued support and invaluable contribution to the Icn Advocacy Working Group, and for honoring our invitation. It is your commitment, our shared mission, to fostering a culture of competition which makes events such as the Advocacy Workshop a productive undertaking. Hence, we all deserve a round of applause. And now for the next advocacy workshop, I would like to announce that the call for expression of interest to be the next host is now open. This event is a biennial activity of the Advocacy Working Group. So the next workshop will be in 2026. So if your agency is interested, kindly contact the Advocacy Working Group co-chairs. So safe travels to everyone. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. We now invite you to join us for lunch on the third floor in the Acacia restaurant. And on my own behalf, I thank you very much for your time and for listening to me and for all the support I've received in delivering this. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the safaris and safe travels. Thank you.